In a world obsessed with innovation, have we forgotten something essential? With each new technological marvel, are we truly becoming happier or more fulfilled? What if the answers to our most pressing modern problems lie buried in the past, waiting to be rediscovered? We live in an age of unprecedented technological advancement, yet anxiety, depression, and a general sense of unease seem to be at an all-time high. The relentless pursuit of novelty has overshadowed the timeless truths that once guided humanity, and in our rush towards the future, we've neglected the wisdom of the ancients. Among these forgotten treasures lie Plato's dialogues, a collection of philosophical conversations designed to help people confront complex moral and logical problems. These problems, it turns out, haven't disappeared. They've simply taken on new forms in the modern era. But here's the twist. Even among those familiar with Plato's work, some of his dialogues have been lost or overlooked, holding unique perspectives and insights that are rarely discussed. This video will explore these forgotten dialogues, revealing their surprising relevance to the contemporary issues we face every day. Through this exploration, we'll uncover practical tools for navigating modern problems, offering a fresh perspective on challenges that often seem insurmountable. By the end of this journey, you'll gain a deeper understanding of yourself, the world, and the challenges you face, leading to improved decision-making and a more fulfilling life. Plato's emphasis on virtue, for example, might seem out of step with modern consumer culture, but it could offer a more fulfilling path to happiness than endless material pursuits. You might be wondering if these dusty old books have anything to say to our fast-paced, technological world. It's easy to dismiss ancient philosophy as irrelevant in the face of modern challenges, but Plato's dialogues address fundamental human questions that transcend time and place. These dialogues grapple with questions of justice, virtue, and the meaning of life, questions that are as relevant today as they were in ancient Greece. So stay with me as we embark on a journey of discovery, rediscovering the forgotten wisdom of Plato's lost dialogues and exploring their profound implications for our modern lives. Let's delve deeper into why these seemingly ancient questions are so important to ask and answer in the modern era. Let's now introduce Plato's allegory of the cave, a powerful metaphor for the state of humanity and our need for intellectual awakening. Remember our opening questions about forgotten wisdom and the struggles of the modern world. Plato's cave is just as essential as the lost dialogues themselves. Imagine a group of prisoners chained in a cave, able to see only shadows projected on the wall. These shadows are their entire reality. They know nothing of the world outside, the world of light and true forms. The allegory of the cave serves as a commentary on our tendency to accept superficial appearances as reality. How easily are we deceived by our senses, mistaking fleeting trends and shallow information for genuine understanding? Plato challenges us to question everything we think we know, to seek deeper truths beyond the surface. Is modern society trapped in a similar cave, mistaking fleeting trends and shallow information for genuine understanding? Now, let's delve deeper and unpack the layers of this allegory. Plato's concept of the forms suggests that the physical world we perceive is merely a shadow of a higher reality. The allegory illustrates the difference between perception and reality. It connects to a world of intellectual darkness that the lost dialogues can illuminate. Each element of the allegory holds symbolic weight. The prisoners represent humanity, trapped in ignorance. The shadows are the illusions we mistake for reality. The fire is the source of artificial light, like the media or popular opinion. The escaped prisoner symbolizes the philosopher who seeks true knowledge, and the sun represents the ultimate form of the good, the source of all truth and understanding. What does this mean for us? Contrast the world of shadows with the world of forms. True knowledge, Plato argues, lies beyond the realm of sensory experience. It can only be attained through reason and contemplation, a process of intellectual awakening. He believed that we must strive to escape the cave and ascend to the realm of forms to grasp reality's true nature. Do you see how this applies to our modern situation? But how does this ancient allegory relate to our modern world? Consider the phenomenon of fake news and the challenges of discerning truth from falsehood. Social media algorithms and echo chambers reinforce our biases, trapping us in caves of our own making. We are constantly bombarded with information, but how much of it is genuine and how much is mere shadow play? Just as the prisoners in the cave mistake shadows for reality, we often mistake superficial information for genuine knowledge. Think about the misinformation campaigns that sway public opinion, the political polarization that divides societies, and the countless societal problems that stem from believing in falsehoods. Consider the real-world examples of how individuals and societies have been manipulated by deceptive narratives, from propaganda during wartime to the spread of conspiracy theories online. The allegory of the cave is not just an abstract philosophical concept. It's a reflection of the very real dangers of ignorance and deception. Is the echo chamber of social media any different from chains binding you to a wall? The allegory has profound implications for personal growth and societal progress. Escaping the cave is a difficult and often painful process. It requires a willingness to question everything, to challenge our own assumptions, and to confront uncomfortable truths. The mental strain and struggle needed to question everything can be immense. But what is the responsibility of those who have escaped the cave? Those who have glimpsed the light of true knowledge have a responsibility to return and help others. However, this task is far from easy. Consider the difficulty of persuading those who are comfortable in their ignorance, who prefer the familiar shadows to the blinding light of truth. Do you see parallels in our current society? Critical thinking, skepticism, and the pursuit of knowledge are essential tools for breaking free from intellectual darkness. Plato's dialogues, including the lost ones, can guide us on this journey. They challenge us to question our assumptions, to think for ourselves, and to seek truth wherever it may be found. Are you ready to take on this challenge? But here's the twist. If the allegory of the cave reveals the limitations of our senses, what is the source of true knowledge and understanding? Where do we go after escaping the cave? Plato's theory of forms offers a glimpse into a higher reality, but it requires a shift in perspective and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom. What we'll discover next is even more shocking than shadows on a wall. Prepare yourself. In the next section, we will explore how the theory of forms will provide a deeper understanding of the concepts discussed in the allegory of the cave, as well as in Plato's lost dialogues. Let's now introduce Plato's theory of forms as a way to understand the eternal, unchanging essences of things, a path to understanding the problems posed by the allegory of the cave. Remember when we talked about the shadows as imperfect imitations? The theory of forms offers a pathway to the highest understanding, that what we see and experience in the physical world is merely a reflection of these forms, a shadow of true reality. Relate back to the lost wisdom and idea that Plato knew things that have been forgotten. Plato believed that true reality exists in a realm beyond our senses, a realm of perfect and eternal forms. Could these lost dialogues offer unique insights into the nature of the forms and their relevance to human life? Diving deeper, let's elaborate on the characteristics of the forms. They are eternal, unchanging, perfect, and accessible only through reason, not the senses. The forms represent perfect ideals such as justice, beauty, and goodness, which serve as models for our actions and judgments. In Plato's view, the physical world is in a constant state of flux, while the forms remain constant and unchanging. Think about a beautiful flower. It will eventually wither and die, but the form of beauty remains eternal. Now, what does the form of the good mean? It is the highest principle and the ultimate source of knowledge and value. All other forms derive their meaning and existence from the form of the good. It is like the sun, which illuminates everything else and makes it possible for us to see. Plato believed that the goal of philosophy is to ascend to the form of the good and to understand its nature. If all of this is true, it will change your life. Let's see how the theory of forms can be applied to contemporary life. What is an ideal sense of justice versus justice as it is practiced in society? In the realm of forms, justice is perfect fairness and equality. However, in the real world, justice is often imperfect, influenced by biases, power dynamics, and other factors. Similarly, our imperfect, transient experiences of beauty, goodness, and justice contrast with the perfect, eternal forms of these concepts. But does this mean we should give up on striving for the ideal? Absolutely not. The theory of forms can inform our ethical decision-making, guiding us to act in accordance with principles of reason and virtue. By striving to embody the forms in our own lives, we can create a more just, beautiful, and good society. Think about ethical dilemmas you face. Does striving for the ideal form change your perspective? Now, let's acknowledge potential criticisms of the theory of forms, such as the difficulty of proving its existence or the potential for abstract speculation. Some critics argue that the theory of forms is too abstract and detached from the real world. However, even if the forms are not literally real, the theory of forms provides a valuable framework for thinking critically about the world and striving for a better life. Is the practical relevance limited to philosophers? What is the relevance of the theory of forms for individual self-discovery, ethical living, and political reform? Even if the forms are not literally real, the theory of forms provides a valuable framework for thinking critically about the world and striving for a better life. What is the practical relevance to a single person? By contemplating the forms, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, our values, and our place in the universe. We can also use the forms as a guide for ethical decision-making, striving to embody the principles of justice, beauty, and goodness in our own lives. But that's not all. This theory has huge implications, which leads us to an important question. If the theory of forms reveals the existence of perfect ideals, how do we align our lives with these ideals and cultivate virtue? What we'll find is not just a philosophical concept, but a compass to guide our actions. Introducing the concept of virtue as the practical application of the theory of forms, a way of embodying the good in our actions and character. If the forms are the blueprint, virtue is the act of building. The lost dialogues may offer unique insights into the nature of virtue and its role in achieving happiness and fulfillment. Next, we will explore Plato's vision of virtue and how it can transform our lives. If the forms are the blueprint, virtue is the act of building. Virtue is not merely an abstract concept, but the practical application of the theory of forms in our daily lives, a way of making perfect ideals concrete in our everyday existence. It's how we bring the ethereal realm of forms down to earth, into the tangible world of human action. But can the cultivation of virtue lead to true happiness, or is it merely a noble but ultimately futile pursuit in a flawed world? Let's unveil Plato's 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Each virtue, a facet of the ideal form of the good, is a guiding light for our actions and a cornerstone of a just society. Wisdom, the ability to understand the true nature of reality and make sound judgments. Courage, the strength to act rightly even in the face of fear. Temperance, the moderation of desires and emotions. And justice, the commitment to fairness and the common good. What do these virtues mean for you? Let's explore each virtue in detail. Wisdom is not just knowledge, but the ability to use knowledge for good, to see the bigger picture and make decisions that benefit all. Courage isn't simply the absence of fear, but the ability to act in accordance with what is right, despite fear. Temperance is about balance, not deprivation, finding harmony between our desires and our reason. Justice, the most complex of the virtues, is about ensuring that everyone receives what they are due, creating a society where all can flourish. What happens when these virtues are absent? Contrast Plato's concept of virtue with modern definitions of success. Today, success is often measured by wealth, fame, or power, metrics that can be achieved through unethical means. Plato argues that true success lies in living a virtuous life, a life aligned with the forms of the good. How do you define success? Is it internal or external? Now, let's bring these virtues to life with contemporary examples. Consider scientists who prioritize ethical considerations over personal gain, making sound decisions that benefit humanity, and the environment that's wisdom in action. First responders who risk their lives to save others, putting themselves in harm's way for the sake of strangers, that's courage embodied. Individuals who practice moderation and self-control, resisting the allure of instant gratification for the sake of long-term well-being, that's temperance in practice. And social activists who fight for equality and fairness, challenging injustice and advocating for the marginalized, that's justice in its purest form. Do you recognize these virtues in your own community? These examples demonstrate the timeless relevance of Plato's philosophy. Virtue is not just an abstract ideal but a lived reality, a force that shapes individuals and societies for the better. But what happens when these virtues are ignored? What are the consequences of a society that prioritizes wealth and power over ethical conduct? Consider the transformative power of ethical leadership. Organizations led by individuals with moral courage and a commitment to justice are more likely to thrive in the long run, earning the trust and respect of their stakeholders. But here's a crucial insight. These virtuous organizations not only achieve financial success, but also contribute to the well-being of their communities, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Is this what the world needs now? What are the implications of cultivating virtue for individual happiness, fulfillment, and meaning in life? Plato believed that true happiness is not found in external pleasures or material possessions, but in the cultivation of a virtuous character. A virtuous life is a meaningful life, a life lived in accordance with reason and the pursuit of the good. But can one person change the world? Let's connect this to modern-day issues. Political divisiveness, the desire for constant gratification, and the erosion of ethical standards are all symptoms of a society that has lost sight of virtue. Plato's philosophy offers a powerful antidote to these problems, providing a framework for ethical decision-making and a vision of a more just and flourishing society. But how do we overcome the challenges of cultivating virtue in a world that often rewards selfishness, greed, and ambition? How do you cultivate virtue? One strategy is to surround yourself with virtuous people, individuals who inspire you to be your best self. Another is to practice mindfulness, paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and striving to align them with your values. And perhaps the most important is to never stop learning, to continue seeking wisdom and striving to understand the true nature of reality. Do you seek virtue every day? While the cardinal virtues provide a framework for ethical living, how do we navigate the complexities of real-world situations where virtues may conflict or overlap? What happens when courage clashes with justice or temperance with wisdom? The answer, as you might suspect, is complex. Plato's lost dialogues may offer unique insights into the nuances of virtue and discuss how virtues can be applied to difficult moral dilemmas. These dialogues, shrouded in mystery, may hold the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of ethical living, revealing the challenges of living an ethical life in an imperfect world. In the next section, We will journey into the shadows, exploring how virtue manifests when it is most difficult. Stay with me. While the cardinal virtues provide a framework for ethical living, how do we apply them when virtues clash, when justice seems to demand a different course of action than mercy? How do we navigate the gray areas where doing the right thing isn't as clear-cut as the textbooks suggest? The forgotten wisdom of Plato's lost dialogues doesn't offer easy answers, but rather a series of thought experiments designed to illuminate the complexities and often paradoxical nature of ethical decision-making. Perhaps the true measure of a virtuous person lies not in blindly adhering to abstract principles, but in thoughtfully navigating the difficult terrain where those principles collide. These dialogues often feature characters grappling with moral dilemmas, facing choices where no single action perfectly embodies all the virtues. They reveal situations where virtues may conflict, overlap, or be difficult to apply in practice. It's not about choosing good over evil in some dramatic, movie-like showdown, but about understanding that in real life, ethical choices often involve choosing between lesser evils or prioritizing one good over another. What happens when the pursuit of justice inadvertently leads to cruelty, or when courage veers into recklessness? Let's explore the concept of moral ambiguity, the uncomfortable reality that ethical choices aren't always black and white. This ambiguity forces us to confront the limits of reason, the challenges of living an ethical life, and the messy, unpredictable nature of human experience. It challenges us to move beyond simple rules and consider the nuances of each situation. What about situations where emotions cloud judgment, or where external pressures influence our decisions? These dialogues challenge conventional wisdom and encourage us to think critically about our values and how to act on them. They invite us to question our assumptions, examine our motives, and consider the potential consequences of our actions. What if the right thing to do is also the most unpopular or the most personally costly? What if adhering to a principle leads to unintended harm? Is ignorance bliss, or is there a need for the educated to interject? Now, let's consider some specific examples of moral dilemmas presented in Plato's lost dialogues. Imagine a situation where justice conflicts with mercy. A judge must decide the fate of a young thief, driven to steal bread to feed his starving family. Upholding the law demands a harsh sentence, but showing compassion would mean leniency. Is it truly virtuous to show mercy when they have broken the law, or does justice demand strict adherence, regardless of circumstance? Consider a scenario where courage clashes with wisdom. A general must decide whether to launch a daring attack against a superior enemy force. Courage demands bold action, but wisdom suggests caution and strategic retreat. How bold is too bold? When does bravery become foolishness, and when does prudence become cowardice? The general must weigh the potential rewards against the very real risks, knowing that the lives of his soldiers hang in the balance. Or perhaps an instance where temperance opposes justice. A wealthy merchant discovers that his business partner has been embezzling funds. Temperance might suggest turning a blind eye, maintaining a profitable relationship and avoiding scandal. But justice demands that the partner be held accountable, even if it means financial ruin and social disgrace. Where is the line drawn for moral actors? How does one balance self-control with the need to stand up for what is right, especially when personal interests are at stake? These examples illustrate the complexities of virtue and the challenges of ethical decision-making, particularly where societal expectations may conflict with individual values. The characters in these dialogues are not simply choosing between good and evil, but grappling with conflicting goods, weighing competing values, and striving to find a course of action that minimizes harm and maximizes benefit. How does this impact the actor? Does the intent behind the action justify the outcome, or are we ultimately judged by the consequences of our choices? What are the implications of these dialogues for modern life, where we often face similarly complex moral dilemmas? How do we apply these ancient lessons to contemporary issues such as political polarization, social injustice, and environmental degradation? Touch on how cancel culture stems from problems like these. Is it justice or cruelty when someone is publicly shamed for a past mistake? How do we balance the need for accountability with the importance of forgiveness and redemption? Empathy, critical thinking, and moral imagination are essential in navigating ethical challenges and finding creative solutions. Empathy allows us to understand the perspectives of others, even those with whom we disagree. Critical thinking enables us to analyze complex situations, identify hidden assumptions, and evaluate potential consequences. And moral imagination empowers us to envision new possibilities, to create solutions that go beyond simple compromises and address the underlying causes of conflict. To resolve conflicts between virtues, we can seek guidance from wise mentors, engage in dialogue with others, and reflect on our own values and beliefs. Mentors can offer valuable insights and perspectives, helping us to see beyond our own biases and blind spots. Dialogue allows us to explore different points of view, challenge our assumptions, and find common ground with others. And reflection enables us to clarify our values, understand our motives, and make decisions that are aligned with our deepest sense of purpose. Navigating moral dilemmas requires careful judgment and critical thinking. So what role does wisdom play in virtuous action? Is wisdom simply the accumulation of knowledge, or is it something more? Can a person be intelligent without being wise? And if so, what is the difference between the two? Perhaps wisdom is not just about acquiring knowledge, but about applying that knowledge to make sound ethical decisions, to navigate the complexities of life with grace and integrity. Plato's Lost dialogues may offer unique insights into the nature of wisdom and how it can guide us in living a virtuous life. Let's now consider how wisdom acts as a compass, guiding us through the turbulent waters of moral complexity. Stay with me. If navigating moral dilemmas requires such careful judgment and critical thinking, what exactly is wisdom? Is it simply the accumulation of knowledge, a vast library of facts stored in one's mind? Or is it something far more profound, a capacity that transcends mere intellect? Can a person be supremely intelligent, a master of logic and reasoning, yet utterly lack wisdom? And if so, what precisely differentiates the two? Perhaps wisdom is not merely about acquiring knowledge, but about applying that knowledge to make sound ethical decisions, to navigate the complex, often treacherous currents of life with both grace and unwavering integrity. The forgotten wisdom of Plato's Lost dialogues may offer uniquely valuable insights into the very nature of wisdom and how it can guide us in living a truly virtuous life when everything around us seems intent on pulling us off course. Let's now consider how wisdom acts as a compass, reliably guiding us through the turbulent waters of moral complexity. Plato's Lost dialogues paint a compelling portrait of wisdom, depicting it as far more than just the passive reception of information or the rote memorization of data. Instead, they portray wisdom as a potent combination of intellectual insight, a deep moral discernment, and perhaps most importantly, a keen practical skill. It's the ability to not only understand abstract concepts, but to apply that understanding to concrete situations, to translate knowledge into effective and ethical action. This multifaceted understanding of wisdom includes, first and foremost, a deep understanding of the very nature of reality, what we might call metaphysical wisdom, grappling with the fundamental questions of existence. Then there's the crucial element of ethical wisdom, the ability to discern what is genuinely good and right, to distinguish between fleeting pleasures and lasting values. And finally, practical wisdom, the capacity to effectively apply that knowledge in the often messy and unpredictable arena of real-world situations. Consider, for example, the difference between knowing about justice and actually acting justly, especially when faced with immense pressure or personal risk. These dialogues challenge our often conventional notions of wisdom, forcing us to reconsider the value we place on simply accumulating facts or mastering technical skills, without the necessary ethical framework to guide their application. Stay with me as we explore the depth of Plato's wisdom. To truly understand Plato's concept of wisdom, let's consider some specific examples of characters in these lost dialogues who truly embody it. Imagine, first, a philosopher king, a ruler not driven by greed or ambition, but by a genuine love of wisdom and a deep commitment to justice. He uses his profound knowledge and understanding of human nature not to manipulate or control his subjects, but to govern them fairly and justly, always seeking the common good above his own personal gain. Consider, too, a wise judge, one who is not swayed by emotion or prejudice, but is able to impartially resolve even the most difficult legal disputes, always striving to find the most equitable outcome for all parties involved. He embodies wisdom in his capacity to see through deception, to understand the motives of others, and to apply the law with both firmness and compassion. And perhaps most inspiringly, imagine a compassionate leader, one who inspires others to act virtuously not through coercion or force, but through the power of example and the compelling force of his own moral character. He embodies wisdom in his ability to understand the needs and aspirations of his people, to empower them to reach their full potential, and to create a society that is both just and flourishing. Now, let's contrast these examples with characters who demonstrably lack wisdom, those who are driven by self-interest, blinded by prejudice, or simply incapable of seeing beyond their own narrow perspectives. The tyrant, for example, who uses his power to oppress and exploit his people, or the demagogue, who manipulates public opinion through fear and misinformation. These negative examples serve to highlight the transformative power of wisdom and its essential role in creating a more just and flourishing society. What are the implications of Plato's concept of wisdom for our modern world, a world in which we are constantly bombarded with information, a relentless deluge of data, yet often sorely lack the ability to discern truth from falsehood, fact from mere opinion? In a society saturated with fake news, propaganda, and misinformation, the ability to think critically, to analyze information objectively, and to distinguish between credible sources and biased narratives becomes more vital than ever before. And here's the twist. The modern world, with its emphasis on instant gratification, superficiality, and the relentless pursuit of material wealth, may actively push people away from the very kind of wisdom that Plato so highly valued. Consider how social media algorithms often prioritize sensationalism and emotional appeals over reasoned arguments and factual accuracy, or how the relentless pressure to conform to societal norms can stifle independent thought and critical inquiry. Ask yourself, how often are we rewarded for thoughtful reflection and nuanced understanding versus quick reactions and simplistic pronouncements? What if the very structures of our society are subtly undermining our capacity for wisdom, creating a culture of intellectual complacency and moral apathy? Cultivating wisdom, therefore, requires a conscious and sustained effort to resist these forces, to actively seek out truth, and to cultivate the intellectual and moral virtues that enable us to navigate the complexities of modern life with both clarity and integrity. This means embracing critical thinking, self-reflection, and a commitment to lifelong learning. It means reading widely, engaging in thoughtful discussions with others, and constantly questioning our own assumptions and beliefs. One must seek guidance from those who embody wisdom, those who have demonstrated a lifelong commitment to truth, justice, and compassion. These mentors can provide invaluable insights and perspectives, helping us to see beyond our own biases and blind spots. It means reflecting deeply on our own experiences, learning from our mistakes, and constantly striving to become better versions of ourselves. Consider the power of journaling, not just as a record of events, but as a tool for self-discovery and moral reckoning. By honestly examining our actions, motives, and intentions, we can begin to identify patterns of behavior that either promote or hinder the development of wisdom. If wisdom is so essential for virtuous action, then how do we truly motivate ourselves to pursue it, to dedicate ourselves to the often arduous task of seeking truth and cultivating moral character? What is the driving force that propels us forward on this challenging, yet ultimately rewarding journey? Plato's concept of philosophia, the love of wisdom, offers a powerful incentive for intellectual and moral growth. This concept is not just about passively receiving wisdom from others, but about actively cultivating a deep and abiding love for truth, beauty, and goodness. This is about cultivating a love of something that's more than simple virtue. It's about philosophia. Let's now explore what it truly means to love wisdom, and how that love can transform not only our minds, but our very lives. Philosophia, that ancient Greek term so often translated simply as philosophy, is far more than just an academic discipline, a dry collection of theories and arguments. It is, in its essence, a love of wisdom, a passionate commitment to seeking truth and living in accordance with reason and virtue. It's not merely an intellectual pursuit, but a way of life, a deeply personal quest for meaning and understanding. This love of wisdom acts as the very engine that drives our pursuit of knowledge, our unwavering dedication to understanding, and our steadfast commitment to living a virtuous life. And here's a thought-provoking question. Can we truly be virtuous if we do not love wisdom, if we simply follow rules and conform to societal expectations out of a sense of duty or obligation? Is genuine virtue simply a matter of compliance, or does it require a deeper, more passionate engagement with the very principles that underlie ethical action? This concept of philosophia unlocks the hidden potential of ancient wisdom. But what does it truly mean to love wisdom, to cultivate this philosophia that Plato so esteemed? The dialogues portray it as involving several key components, each essential for unlocking its transformative power. First, a deep and insatiable curiosity about the world, a burning desire to understand its hidden mysteries, to unravel its complex patterns, to explore its endless possibilities. This curiosity is not simply a fleeting interest, but a persistent and unwavering drive to seek out new knowledge and expand our understanding. Second, a willingness to question assumptions and challenge conventional wisdom, to refuse to blindly accept what others tell us, to think for ourselves, and to arrive at our own conclusions. This requires intellectual courage, a willingness to stand up for what we believe, even when it is unpopular or uncomfortable. Next, a commitment to seeking truth, even when it is uncomfortable or unpopular, even when it challenges our own cherished beliefs or threatens our own self-interest. This requires intellectual honesty, a willingness to admit when we are wrong, to change our minds in the face of new evidence, and to always prioritize truth above all else. Then we see a love for beauty, goodness, and other transcendent values, those timeless ideals that inspire us to strive for something greater than ourselves, to reach beyond the limitations of our own individual existence. This love provides a sense of purpose and meaning, guiding our actions and shaping our character. Consider the impact of a life devoted to these transcendent values. Let's examine how this philosophia, this burning love of wisdom, manifests itself in the lives of those who embody it. Consider the philosopher, not as some detached academic, but as a passionate seeker of truth, dedicating his life to uncovering the hidden mysteries of the universe and sharing his insights with others, even in the face of ridicule or persecution. Or consider the artist, using their creative talents not merely for self-expression, but to express beauty, inspire virtue, and uplift the human spirit, to remind us of our shared humanity and our potential for greatness. And what about the social reformer, working tirelessly to create a more just and equitable society, driven by a deep compassion for the suffering of others and an unwavering commitment to fighting for what is right? Each of these figures embodies philosophia in their own unique way, demonstrating the transformative power of a life lived in accordance with reason, virtue, and a deep love for all that is good, true, and beautiful. Now, contrast these examples with those who actively oppose philosophia, those who seek to suppress truth, stifle creativity, and perpetuate injustice. The censor, for example, who seeks to control what others can read or see, the propagandist, who manipulates public opinion through lies and misinformation, or the tyrant, who uses force and intimidation to silence dissent and maintain power. These figures serve as stark reminders of the dangers of intellectual and moral apathy, and the importance of actively cultivating a love for wisdom in ourselves and in others. What then are the implications of Plato's concept of philosophia for our modern lives? Lives often consumed by the relentless pursuit of material success, the fleeting pleasures of consumer culture, and the superficial distractions of social media. In a world that often seems to prioritize wealth, fame, and power above all else, the cultivation of philosophia becomes more critical than ever before. It is, perhaps, the most effective antidote to the cynicism, alienation, and moral decay that can so easily creep into our souls. This means actively cultivating a love for wisdom in ourselves and in others, especially in a world that is becoming increasingly complex, uncertain, and fraught with peril. One should engage in meaningful conversations with friends and family, exploring profound questions about life, death, and the nature of reality. One should read literature, philosophy, and history, immersing ourselves in the wisdom of the ages and learning from the experiences of those who have come before us. Spending time in nature, reflecting on its beauty and complexity, can deepen our appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things and inspire a sense of awe and wonder. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, serve others and work to create a better world, not out of a sense of duty or obligation, but out of a genuine love for humanity and a deep desire to alleviate suffering and promote justice. Through these actions, we not only cultivate wisdom within ourselves, but also inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of positive change that can transform our communities and our world. So, how does the love of wisdom that stems from philosophia actually help one to leave the cave, from Plato's allegory of the cave, to break free from the shadows of ignorance and delusion and ascend to the light of truth? Is rediscovering Plato's philosophy one of the most effective ways to leave the cave? The journey out of the cave is not easy, but it is a journey that is well worth taking. As we move toward the conclusion, we'll return to the allegory of the cave and discuss practical ways to rediscover virtue and wisdom in the modern day. The wisdom of the ancients still has much to teach us about ourselves and the world around us. Stay with me. The most profound insights are yet to come. As we draw to a close on our exploration of Plato's forgotten wisdom, let's reflect on the path we've traveled. We began by questioning modern society's obsession with the new, and sought answers in the lost dialogues of Plato, seeking new ways of thinking from old ways of thinking. We've journeyed through the allegory of the cave, the theory of forms, the cardinal virtues, and the power of philosophia, seeking to understand what these concepts mean to the world today. What does this all mean for us? now that we've taken this journey? In essence, we've rediscovered that timeless wisdom can provide profound insights into our contemporary challenges, offering a unique and valuable perspective that we often overlook in our modern, fast-paced world. We've seen how Plato's dialogues offer practical tools for navigating moral dilemmas, cultivating virtue, and pursuing a life of meaning, tools that are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. You now possess a framework for critical thinking, ethical decision-making, and self-discovery, a framework that can guide you in making more informed and virtuous choices in your own life. How will you use this framework to better your life and the lives of those around you? Remember our initial descent into the cave of illusion. We can now see the path to escape, illuminated by Plato's wisdom, a path that requires us to question our assumptions, challenge conventional wisdom, and seek out truth wherever it may be found. Building on our understanding of the forms, we recognize the importance of striving for ideals, even if they seem unattainable, ideals such as justice, beauty, and goodness, that serve as guiding stars in our pursuit of a more meaningful existence. This all connects to what we discussed earlier about the cardinal virtues, highlighting the importance of executing them with the right amount of wisdom. Courage without wisdom can lead to recklessness. Justice without wisdom can lead to oppression. This is why philosophia, the love of wisdom, is such an important ideal to seek. How can we integrate these virtues into our daily lives and decisions? The most profound realization is this: true progress lies not in endlessly chasing novelty, but in rediscovering and applying the timeless wisdom of the past, a wisdom that has been tested and refined over centuries. Ultimately, this is about becoming more thoughtful, ethical, and compassionate human beings, individuals who are committed to living in accordance with reason and virtue. By embracing philosophia and striving for wisdom, we can create a better world for ourselves and for future generations, a world that is more just, equitable, and flourishing. In a world where superficiality often reigns supreme, where can we find genuine depth and meaning? This isn't just about ancient philosophy. It's about how we build a more just, equitable, and flourishing society, a society that values wisdom, virtue, and the common good above all else. Consider the impact on our political discourse, our educational system, and our personal relationships, all of which could be transformed by a renewed emphasis on critical thinking, ethical reasoning, and a deep commitment to truth. In a world grappling with misinformation, division, and moral ambiguity, the insights of Plato are more relevant than ever, providing a compass to navigate the complexities of our time. What role does ethics play in making important, global-scale choices in the modern era? You have the power to choose to live a more virtuous and meaningful life, a life guided by reason, compassion, and a deep love for wisdom. The path forward may be challenging, but it is also filled with opportunities for growth and self-discovery, opportunities to learn, to grow, and to become the best versions of ourselves. Together, we can create a world where wisdom and virtue are valued above all else, a world where everyone has the opportunity to flourish and reach their full potential. How can you contribute to building such a world? How will you apply Plato's wisdom in your own life? What steps will you take to cultivate virtue and pursue truth? I challenge you to engage in meaningful conversations, seek out wise mentors, and reflect on your own values and beliefs, constantly striving to become a more thoughtful, ethical, and compassionate human being. The journey to wisdom is a lifelong pursuit, but it is a journey worth taking. Thank you for looking. Are these lost dialogues truly lost? Join us as we attempt to unearth other pieces of forgotten, and perhaps suppressed, philosophical works.